What are the best and worst matchups for your wide receivers, tight ends, and streaming defenses for Week 7 in fantasy football? It's time to break it down right here and right now as we begin another matchup Thursday with your starts and advice on Locked On Fantasy Football.
Are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer, and I'm not doing this. I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. We did have our matchup Wednesday. We broke down the quarterback and running back rankings, the start, sit advice for the players on the fringe, those positions here based on the matchups and other factors. We're going to do that here. Matchup Thursday, we're going to look at the wide receivers, tight ends, and defenses of the week that you can consider to put in your lineups or maybe you want to avoid and maybe make a pivot out of those spots. Keep in mind, we have 4 big bye weeks. We know the Rams, Vikings, Eagles, and Bills. A lot off the table, especially at wide receiver this week. So you don't have Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. That is a big bye week for wide receivers, no doubt. So you'll probably be looking a little bit deeper at your spots. You might also have Gabe Davis, Devonta Smith. So a lot of players that are usually startable, no-brainers every week out of your lineup. So we're going to see where you can find the replacements, what guys we bump up the rankings with those guys not in action. So we'll get into that. We'll also look at the tight ends and defenses, of course, here on a Thursday. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. We are free and available to you on all platforms. Crossover Thursday, this is where our team-by-team podcast break down the games of the upcoming week with their matchups. It's presented by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is so much fun and it's easy to play. No competing with other players, just you versus the projections available. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times their money on your entry. It can literally take less than 60 seconds to enter. It's that easy. We love Prize Picks, and we know you will too. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. It's really easy to play and fun, so get in on it here as we approach midseason. Thanks again to Prize Picks. Now, let's look at our picks at wide receiver this week that we really like. Let's break down the rankings first in this first segment here. Ja'Marr Chase lighting it up last week, got going. That explosive game, we saw a lot of his rookie year happen against the Saints defense with no Marshawn Lattimore. Well, the Falcons may not be without A.J. Terrell this week. Yeah, he's limited in practice early. Casey Hayward, by the way, was put on injured reserve. So another week in secondary. Terrell hasn't played all that well, and he could be on T. Higgins this week with the way they line things for the Falcons there with Dean Pease. So let's see how that plays out. But Ja'Marr Chase, I think, stays hot there at home against the Falcons. Deebo Samuel, his hybrid role, that's what the Chiefs struggle with their safeties and linebackers. Deebo should have a big game there, pretty high volume for him. Jimmy Garoppolo. Devontae Adams, it's a little tougher matchup. Actually, the Texans secondaries played well with the cover too, but he's Devontae Adams here, and maybe without Darren Waller this week. We'll have to watch that. Michael Pittman can keep it going. Big game last week, double-digit targets and catches there against the Jaguars. He keeps it going. The Tennessee Titans secondary doesn't have answers for him. CeeDee Lamb, love that with Dak Prescott coming back against the Lions. Jeffrey Okudah has played a little bit better, but nothing scary there. Tyreek Hill gets the Steelers secondary. They're banged up. They should have a few more bodies in there this week, but Hill should keep getting it done no matter who's at quarterback here. Mike Evans as well should rebound here against the Panthers secondary. They have J.C. Horn and Dante Jackson both hurt. So Evans on the outside has one of his signature big games here. Jalen Waddle, love him this week. The shoulder injury is a little bit of concern. We're going to watch that. But zone defense, that's the great thing about Hill or Waddle. They're big play threats downfield, but you put a zone defense, you can throw short passes to them. So the Steelers are going to have their hands full with those two, especially with their secondary injuries this week. Another pair of receivers I like from the same team that did disappoint last week, mainly because their quarterback didn't throw a touchdown pass. And they also ran like nuts, and they won the game with the defense, which we didn't expect. Seahawks are not going to win the game with defense this week. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett against that Chargers secondary. It's actually J.C. Jackson struggling quite a bit. We do have Bryce Callahan, and he's playing okay, but I think there are a lot of opportunities there for Russell Wilson with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. And I think these guys are like the OG version of Sutton and Jeudy in a way, kind of interesting, both related to Wilson and changing teams. But Metcalf and Lockett are doing it here week in, week out. There's going to be high volume from Geno Smith. I think he'll throw at least 40 times in this game with Herbert on the other side lighting up the Seahawks. So that's going to be good there for both of their chances here. I like really the triplets here, Metcalf, Lockett, and Ken Walker to keep getting the job done together. Mike Williams in that same game against the Seahawks. I mean, you do have one rookie corner that's balling out is Tariq Woolen. He's played really well. They also have Mike Jackson on the other side, but it's going to be an easier matchup, much easier than he saw with Pat Surtain 2 last week. So Mike Williams rebounds here. Again, a high volume, I think, shootout game. This is the highest total of the week, by the way. We're at 51 and a half, pushing that with that game. So there are points expected to be had in the Seahawks-Chargers game. Keenan Allen, of course, you're going to play in that game if he returns. Josh Palmer has a concussion, so that's a little bit of concern there. So it might be a little bit DeAndre Carter time should Allen and Palmer miss the game. And again, that's something to watch for in that matchup for sure this week. T. Higgins, we mentioned, he's in your lineup every week now. He should be a little bit healthier with that ankle injury. Did not really have any limitations there in practice. You look at Allen Lazard, great matchup. Every healthy game he's played this season, Allen Lazard has scored. He's been that good. And the Commanders, watch it kind of stop here against the Commanders with a scoring streak, but otherwise he can dominate this matchup. They're looking at other receivers. Chase Claypool has been rumored there, but for now, Lazard is locked in as Aaron Rodgers' clear number one target in high leverage situations. So love that matchup. DeAndre Hopkins, what do you do with him? I think the matchup is good enough. He's going to get the decent volume here. He's coming back. He's well rested. No issues with the hamstring or knee from last year. So he might be on a bit of a pitch count, but it is a Saints secondary without Marshawn Lattimore. And they don't have Lott. I mean, A.J. Green is kind of washed here. There's no Marquise Brown. I know they have Rondell Moore, but he's a more of a short area option. Zach Ertz, intermediate. They need somebody there to help stretch the field, especially with Robbie Anderson just joining the team. So I do like DeAndre Hopkins to get it done, but keep in mind he's going to be more of a wide receiver too this week. Chris Olave in the same game tonight here. He's the only real healthy receiver. The Cardinals secondary has actually played pretty well late with Byron Murphy Jr., and this past defense has been better, but Chris Olave has gotten the job done here every healthy game in the past 4 games here. And I think he actually connects better with Andy Dalton overall because Olave doesn't get credit for being a great all-around receiver yet. He's headed that way in that mold where we're going to see him go as a top 10 wide receiver here, maybe as early as next year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is someone you're looking at as well here with the Lions. He should be back here. He practiced in full, which is a good sign there on Wednesday. So Amon-Ra is good to go here. And the Cowboys, not bad on the outside. They can be a little bit more in the slot, but I think you'll see a lot of scoring here for the Cowboys. That will be good because that'll create volume here for the Lions with Amon-Ra. Chris Godwin, solid game, finally fully healthy, no issues here, not even on the injury report as a designation there at all early in the week. That's great news. He's going to kill the Panthers in the slot. Cortland Sutton, you're going to play him. He's the best Broncos option we have right now against the Jets. Sauce Gardner did play really well. The secondary is actually playing really well for the Jets under Robert Saleh, so keep that in mind. But Sutton is still a guy that you can look at because of his big body and potential to score a touchdown in any game. Christian Kirk, the matchup is not great here. The Giants secondary is pretty good overall, and Trevor Lawrence might struggle in this game a little bit, but he's their best option, and therefore he's an option for you here as a wide receiver too. And Terry McLaurin is last on my list here. This shift in quarterback from Carson Wentz to Taylor Heineke could actually help Terry McLaurin because that's who Heineke knows. He's not familiar with Jahan Dotson. Curtis Samuel hardly played there last year, and Dotson may not play with that hamstring injury. So keep that in mind. So McLaurin should be bumped up here. It's the Packers. I know they have Jerry Alexander, but this Packers secondary hasn't played as well as we've expected here this week. But I think McLaurin gets involved. The problem with McLaurin is he's not a big red zone target, but he has had his best success if you look at it with Heineke. All right, so there's your top 21 receivers that I've ranked that are sure starts this week here. So almost through the wide receiver twos. We'll round them out to wide receiver twos and threes there with my recommended plays. And then we'll look at the sits at the position in our next segment here on Locked On Fantasy Football. Blue Nile can make your milestone moment more memorable. It did for me. I mean, it's been a 10-year anniversary this year for me, so it was special to have Blue Nile involved. Whether you're looking to pop the question, have a milestone to celebrate, want to let your love sparkle, Blue Nile can help you make your celebrations even more memorable. As the original online jeweler, Blue Nile offers a larger selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. Blue Nile has helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. Their easy online tools let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity as well as the setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then help you handcraft her perfect one-of-a-kind engagement ring. Looking for a piece of fine jewelry to commemorate a special milestone but still having trouble choosing? Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Shop stress-free with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All Blue Nile orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging. They also offer overnight shipping if you're in a rush. Now, it's great that you can take care of your significant other, and she's going to love it. Trust me there. And Blue Nile is going to take care of you, so you can make it a surprise as well. Make your moment sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com. Promo code LOCKEDON, all lowercase, all one word, to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code LOCKED on. All right, it is time to continue the show, and we'll look at our wide receiver starts and sits there on the fringe guys that we're trying to make decisions about in our fantasy football lineups for Week 7. Before we do that, don't forget, tomorrow's Friday. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Make sure you check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local expert to give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games in the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, BetOnline. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, it's time to continue this podcast and look at wide receiver starts and sits for the week. Diontae Johnson and George Pickens have been disappointing. We did get some early news here that Mike Tomlin said Kenny Pickett is going to continue to start over Mitchell Trubisky if he's clearing concussion protocol. Well, the full practice right away is great. Usually it's limited. We hope for that Friday bump up, but that Kenny Pickett is going full is great. And he's starting to feel a little bit, folks, and maybe a little bit of motivation here. They're playing Miami and ACC kind of place there. You got the whole specter of Dan Marino, the greatest Pitt quarterback of all time in the NFL. So there's all that going on here in this game. And I think the Steelers will also like the coverage of the Dolphins here. And Brian Flores is going to know some of that here as a defensive consultant there for Mike Tomlin. So that's going to help the young quarterback a little bit as well this week. So I do like Diontae Johnson and George Pickens. I also can see some volume here for the Steelers. The Dolphins have success on the other side. So Johnson and Pickens get it going. That means you fade Chase Claypool. So that's what happens here. So that's happening because Trubisky and Claypool, Matt Canada, there's a whole thing there. But definitely Pickett is looking to his fellow rookie Pickens a little bit more. And Diontae Johnson, we know how he feels about Trubisky at this stage with their little sideline confrontation there. Brandon Ayuk, the Ayuk is on fire. He had the 2 touchdowns last week against the Falcons. Very similar matchup this week. The Chiefs secondary is probably going to put their attention on Deebo Samuel. Ayuk can get those easy walk-in scores here. So something to watch with the Brandon Ayuk this week for sure. So he's going to be involved in the volume. As the volume goes up, that's going to help Ayuk, Samuel, and George Kittle really produce here for the Chiefs. Now, Brandon Cooks, this Raiders secondary doesn't have Nate Hobbs, and he's their best corner, and he usually plays the slot. So Raiders pretty vulnerable on the back end. We also figure the Texans, the game script is going to call for a lot of passes from Davis Mills coming off the bye. The Raiders should light up the Texans with the running game and the passing game this week. So Brandon Cooks rebounds here nicely. Also notable, Nico Collins and Chris Moore, a little bit banged up. So Brandon Cooks should see a little bit more volume, and they're probably going to make it a point post-bye to get him the ball in this offense. Alec Pierce, keep rolling with Alec Pierce. 3 straight weeks of really strong fantasy football play here. Finally got in the end zone last week at the game-winning touchdown against the Jaguars. And now you got Pittman getting the attention. This Tennessee secondary, not a lot there. Christian Fulton and some of their younger corners just not very good right now. The pass rush non-existent. The Colts offensive line played really well last week, both run blocking and pass protecting. Matt Ryan, good little stack in DFS potentially with Alec Pierce this week in tournaments. All right, Romeo Doubs, he's had a little bit of struggle here getting going for the Packers. The rookie wall, we know that it was overhyped a little bit, but it is the Commanders this week. And for now, he's going to have that key number 2 role. Christian Watson is still hurting with a hamstring. No Randall Cobb here. So Dobbs has to have a key role here for the Packers, right along with Al Lazard and Robert Tonyan. Commanders secondary really bad, and they might be without William Jackson once again this week. There, the Bears have plenty of opportunities. They just cannot capitalize, and Aaron Rodgers will definitely do that with his receivers this week. Hunter Renfrow, great matchup this week against the Texans. He's a zone beater. That's what they play. So I think Adams, they might look to bottom up a little bit, and Renfrow should get by with volume. So I can see something like 10 catches, 80 yards, something like that, with Renfrow with a shot at a touchdown there with Derek Carr. After a bye again, you just to get the ball in the hands of key playmakers, and especially Waller's out, that's going to help. Drake London, they haven't had to pass much. The Falcons have won a couple games running all over the Browns and the 49ers at home. They're on the road this week. I would expect Mariota is going to have to put the ball up. The Bengals secondary is just weak enough where you like Drake London. You look at Tyler Boyd, same game. The Falcons really struggle in the slot. Now, if you have to play Isaiah Oliver on the outside with no Hayward, that's going to really weaken them up. So Tyler Boyd this week to have another solid game as a wide receiver 3. Michael Gallup, I like him in DFS tournaments as well this week. He got 7 targets last week, just couldn't connect with Cooper Rush in that tougher matchup with Darius Slay and James Bradbury on the field for the Eagles. They're going to drop against Slay's former team again, Amani Aroye, and also one Jeff Okudah. So Gallup should make good plays. You also get Dak Prescott, who's going to help them stretch the field a little bit more. And on Thursday night, Rondale Moore. I mean, just look at the things. They line up pretty well here. They don't have a back now that they can trust to catch passes the way that Chase Edmonds did. They don't have a Greg Dortch in the rotation. AJ Green is pretty much faded. DeAndre Hopkins is playing his first game back. No Robbie Anderson probably in a real role. And you don't have Marquise Brown. So if there's any opportunity against the secondary that's been eaten up in the slot really everywhere without Lattimore, Rondale Moore is the guy here this week. He can do a little bit of what Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins did for the Bengals last week against the secondary. So Rondale Moore, don't expect big things, but hopefully we get a touchdown out of it. I don't think he'll push for 100 yards. That would be shocking. But I think he can get 75 yards somewhere there, 7 catches with a shot and a short touchdown here from Kyler Murray in this game. All right, so those are the players there that I like at wide receiver. Let's get into the players I don't like. So it's actually a pretty good week for wide receivers and their matchups. I do not like Amari Cooper. This Ravens secondary is starting to play well with Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey on the outside. So I'm not fine with Cooper. He's up and down, had a touchdown last week. So I'm not feeling it. DJ Moore can't go there at all against the Buccaneers. I mean, we tried last week. We thought PJ Walker was going to spark him, get free from Baker Mayfield. Did not happen. The Panthers are just awful at scheming him open, and we're not feeling it against the Bucks. Jerry Jeudy, speaking of awful of scheming a player open, oh my gosh. Nathaniel Hackett, Jerry Jeudy, we're not going there. I think Curtis Samuel is also a slip this week. That quarterback change, I mean, we saw what that can do here for a team. We saw it with the Pickett versus Trubisky situation. Claypool versus Pickens. I think this is more of a McLaurin versus Samuel thing here with Taylor Heineke. So I'm not feeling Curtis Samuel here. The Packers are decent in the slot here this week. So I had an opportunity last week's game, didn't get that touchdown, could drop that ball, but I do not like the matchup this week. Darnell Mooney had a nice game there. He's had a few good games to come back to fantasy football relevance as a wide receiver 3, but Patriots can take him out of the game. They've got the guys in secondary coverage. They can go over the top. He's a big play threat. So not feeling against that Patriots defense here. That's back to being the Patriots defense. Look, if you want to try Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, or Corey Davis, good luck to you. But it's just not happening with any of those guys, and it's not a great matchup this week. Patriots, look, Jacoby Myers is good, but in the slot, if they can get him there, that's not bad. But I'm just not going to trust any Patriots receivers. We could have a switch in quarterback. I hope it's Bailey Zappi more of, but you also have Tyquan Thornton in the mix. I don't know what you're going to get. The tight ends are also involved, so I'm going to avoid the Patriots receivers if I can. And the Titans, you're not going to stretch for Robert Woods, especially with Treylon Burks hurting and stuff. So it's tough to trust anything with the Titans here this week. And it's not feeling it here with Tennessee pass catchers in that game here in week number 7. All right, there you have the guys that I don't like this week. And if we want to dig a little deeper, I think you can, but just be careful. Don't start people that are just on the fringes here. And also check out the injuries. Again, we might see some opportunities open up for a player such as Diontae Carter this week, and that's a guy that would plug and play if you need him there for some cheap points in that Chargers Seahawks game. Now, in our final segment, we will get into the tight ends that you want to start and sit here in fantasy football, as well as the defenses there. And we'll give you the rankings there that not a lot of surefire options at that position, but we'll get to it in our final segment. All right, here's a sports analogy for you. When it comes to burglars, your home is like the end zone. You need the absolute strongest defense you can muster. This is why I use and trust Simply Safe Home Security. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. It's cutting-edge technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back, so you always know that your home is safe. So Simply Safe is always there for me. They're right there when you need to avert a break-in. The technology is off the charts good here. Feeling that you're supported not only by their support team, but also the way things are set up with their technology. So Simply Safe is state-of-the-art here, advanced here with the security cameras and the variety of high-tech sensors that they have. Really beats the competition, and really Simply Safe professionals are really professional, and you can trust them to do a great job. And the 24/7 professional monitoring is fantastic. Simply Safe's agents call you the moment the threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. Simply put, Simply Safe blankets your home in protection. Monitoring experts use proprietary advanced response technology to visually confirm when a break-in is real so you can get the highest priority police dispatch. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com. That's simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign in and sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. All right, it is time to close the show here on Locked On Fantasy Football. We're going to go through our tight end ranking start sits as well as do the same for defense here. So get you on your way with our matchups for this week. We already have a big game coming up today against the Cardinals and Saints. So good stuff there to get our fantasy football week going. All right, a tight end, Travis Kelce. He's number one. I know the 49ers are tough here, but Talanoa Hufanga might be out here. The safety, Jimmy Ward's banged up with a hand injury. That's going to help. I know they use their linebackers quite a bit in tight end coverage, but Kelce's Kelce. He's in your lineup. No brainer. Mark Andrews, I think, could have the biggest week here working against the Browns. So Kelce and Andrews, no brainer. 1-2, 2-1, whatever you want to do every week with those guys. Now, George Kittle, do like the matchup. He did get involved a little bit more with Jimmy G. What we need is volume. We need them to throw. They're going to have to throw in this game against the Chiefs. Chiefs are not very good at covering the tight end. Allowed a tight end touchdown there to Dawson Knox last week. So Kittle maybe finally getting an end zone this week. The Bengals also not great at covering the tight end, despite some really good safeties there in Von Bell and Jesse Bates. So Kyle Pitts should get open here, and volume is going to help these guys get played, so that's going to help. The 49ers and Falcons on the other side of very high-scoring offenses this week that they're going to have to put the ball in the air. Darren Waller's got the hamstring injury. He suffered that against the Chiefs there before the bye. He sat out. It was pretty ugly. So he signed a big contract extension at age 30, and he disappeared. So go figure. We'll see if he's out there. But if he is, you've got to plug him because there's not a lot of great options at tight end. And TJ Hawkinson is back this week as well, coming off the bye there against the Cowboys. So something to watch there. The Cowboys are pretty good against the tight end, but Hawkinson is in your lineup every week based on the tight end landscape. Dalton Schultz looks like he'll be back. So he's a guy out there that you can play. I'd be a little bit careful just because they might ease him back in. I know he's practicing in full, but they also have Jake Ferguson, who's looked pretty good, the rookie there. So that's an option for you again this week. Here's some other options that you look at here. David Njoku, I like him. The Ravens have been pretty vulnerable against the tight end. They allowed a touchdown to Daniel Bellinger last week. So I do like Njoku quite a bit in that matchup. Robert Tonyan, the matchup on paper seems hard against the Commanders, but keep in mind they used him as kind of the second wide receiver last week. So you might see a little bit of Dobbs, but Tonyan, good chance to find the end zone this week. Gerald Everett in a revenge game versus the Seahawks. There, it's at home. It's a great matchup, and we saw what happened last week. The Cardinals were pretty solid here against them with Zach Ertz. So Gerald Everett, a little bit Zach Ertzy So he should be fine. And also, by the way, Donald Parham is dealing with a concussion, so he could have the tight end position to himself battling through an illness. Pat Freiermuth should return against the Dolphins. Dolphins have been vulnerable against that position. So, again, I'd like him a little bit more actually with Trubisky in there because Pickett is more of an aggressive downfield thrower, but Freiermuth is Freiermuth, and he can score a touchdown easily in that game. Hayden Hurst, revenge game for him. He's his second revenge game. He really came through in the first one against the Ravens with a touchdown. So the revenge tour continues for Hayden Hurst here at home. I think he has a good chance to score. Daniel Bellinger, again, by the numbers, the matchup is not great here. They have pretty good safeties and linebackers there for the Jaguars, but he's the key target there with Wan'Dale Robinson. Go figure, 2 rookies leading the way to help Daniel Jones here. But Daniel Bellinger, too much involved, and there's not much out there that you have to go with him this week. I mean, Evan Ingram, our third revenge game of the week. Wow, that's crazy. Yes, he's at home against the Giants. The Giants are a little bit vulnerable to the tight end there. We saw what Mark Andrews did last week. I know Ingram is not Andrews, but Giants very tough on wide receivers, so that opens things up for Ingram as well versus Kirk maybe being held in check this week. So, all right, let's go to our tight ends that we're not feeling it. We didn't mention Zach Ertz. The Saints are so nasty against the tight end. Now, you probably have Ertz as your best option. So don't go crazy and, let's say, play a Bellinger there over Ertz. I mean, he's got a tough matchup as well. But if you had a Dalton Schultz sitting on the bench or something like that, and you want to go that direction, or Hawkinson on the bye, or you just had depth at tight end, you could go that direction. But Zach Ertz, and the Saints do not allow touchdowns to the tight ends. They just don't. I know Zach Ertz has been more volume-based, but that volume could definitely change with D-Hop back. And keep in mind, Ertz didn't play much of D-Hop last season, so something to watch there. If you got a better alternative, go there. But if not, Ertz has been as consistent as it gets there, quarterback. Or for this quarterback at tight end. Speaking of quarterback and tight end, Taysom Hill. Yeah, it's a very risky here on Thursday night. Give up a lot of points to the tight end, but Taysom Hill not a tight end, and Adam Troutman is out, by the way. So really dependent on a big run or a pass to connect here for Taysom Hill and a score. So that's the tough thing with Taysom, your /tight end / whatever flex that you're putting in your lineup. So it's a big dice roll. It's a boomer bust play for sure. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, the Bears have actually been pretty good against the tight end with their coverage. They got Eddie Jackson and some guys back there. So I think both those guys cool off this week against the Bears. Tyler Conklin, he's just disappeared with Zach Wilson. They're just not throwing to him. Nope. Noah Fant there. Yeah, you can't go there. He's actually a little bit hurting as well this week. But, yeah, I know he emerged a little bit away from Will Dissly, but the Chargers pretty good against tight end no matter what happened last week with Greg Dulcich scoring on a busted play there with Russ Wilson extending. Mike Gesicki, not feeling it. No Gritty. That Gritty should have got him benched for 2 weeks, how bad it was. But the Steelers have gotten better against the tight ends. Not going there. Cole Kmet, the numbers say maybe you want to play him against the Patriots, but no. Kyle Duggar. Nope. Not going to play him this week. So not extending, and it's reliables, but you might have to play Ertz this week, but there are some definitely options if you got those other guys, as we mentioned. All right, let's go to our defenses here. Speaking of that Bears defense, they're number 1 on the list this week. Absolutely. They've had 2 big games here in a row. That monster game at home against the Lions, another NFC North foe just a couple weeks ago with the shutout. So that's going to happen again here, folks. So I love them at home. The Cowboys at home against the Lions. So, yeah, let's target some of these lesser NFC North teams, shall we? So we'll do that with these 2 home teams. The Buccaneers usually destroy the Panthers. That's not going to be different here with the Tom Brady era. Packers there getting Taylor Heineke. They'll be angry and make some plays. Ravens against Jacoby Brissett at home. And then you have the Broncos against Zach Wilson at home. Some really good matchups there and really good situations there with those defenses. So easily the top half dozen we're looking at. The Bengals, not bad. If you force Marcus Mariota into volume, he can make mistakes. So the Bengals will have some opportunities for some sacks and takeaways. You have the Cardinals, emotional primetime bump, but also Andy Dalton is terrible in primetime. He figures to be the starter. If not, James Winston is good for picks too. They've been making big plays. They scored a defensive touchdown last week. That was their only touchdown of the game against the Seahawks. So Cardinals defense started to play really well this year. So that's a thing that started out rough, maybe because they're playing Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but they've gotten better every week if you look at the numbers. Giants and Jaguars, I don't love this game at all for either quarterback. I do like Jones maybe getting it down a little bit more with his legs than Lawrence, but again, that's a good opportunity for 2 defenses you can play. Dolphins, look, Kenny Pickett, I think will do well with this matchup. But again, he's still a rookie, can make mistakes. So you like him. The Raiders are a sneaky play this week. Davis Mills is not very good on the road. I think watch out. The Raiders should put some pressure on him by scoring a lot of points, and that could lead to a mistake this week here. And I also like the New York Jets. Yeah, the Jets against the Den, the Broncos in Denver. It's Russell Wilson playing through a hamstring injury, a shoulder injury. We saw what they did to Aaron Rodgers last week. They're starting to feel it with Robert Saleh. So the Jets, really a good bargain there. We'll talk about them in DFS as well. But Jets defense getting it done here in fantasy. Now, the defenses you don't want to play, not the Saints at the Cardinals. Kyler Murray has been a little bit sloppy, but the points may not be there that you need here for the Saints. Chargers, a good week last week. They had the sacks and the late turnover there that they took advantage of. Were pretty decent against the Broncos, but the Seahawks have actually been very clean, not going there. 49ers, you're absolutely not playing them against Mahomes and the Chiefs. Colts and Titans, their defenses are not good enough against the offenses here with Jonathan Taylor likely to be back, and as well as Derrick Henry rolling out of the bye. So, nope, you're not going there. Chiefs, nope, you're not going to risk them against Jimmy Garoppolo. And Bears, no. I mean, people keep ranking whoever's playing the Patriots high. I actually like them better if it's Mac Jones, a little bit more, but no, they're going to get run all over. We're not going to go there this week. So some pretty good streaming defenses overall, the top defenses. Given, you play the Rams and the Bills and Eagles regularly, there's some really good replacement options this week, including, again, the Cardinals tonight and the Raiders as a sneaky play that should be available in a lot of leagues there on Sunday afternoon. All right, there you have it. There's a look at your wide receiver ranking starts and sits, as well as our advice for our tight end and defensive streaming matchups this week. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. We are free and available to you on all platforms. Now, our next episode, we will look at the injury update. There are some injuries we need to track there going into the weekend, so we'll do that for you, go in depth there and how they might affect things, whether offensive skill players, offensive line, or defense. We'll break that down for you on Friday's show, as well as our DFS report. We'll look at our FanDuel cash games, our DraftKings tournaments, as well as our price picks of the week. So a lot of good stuff there to close the show there on Locked On Fantasy Football. And don't forget to check out, if you missed it, the quarterback and running back breakdown here for Week 7 on Matchup Wednesday. Now make your second listen to the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis you need in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast, just like this show. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Good luck if you got Saints and Cardinals going tonight, and we'll react to that game and give you injury DFS report to close the week on Locked On Fantasy Football.